He says it's the 3 M's of leadership. It's the mission, the men, and me. He says at all costs, you as infantry officers must accomplish the mission.
The mission, the men, me. The 3 M's of leadership taught to officers in Vietnam. As Green Berets, the lessons we learn on our ODA shape how we lead when we take the beret off. For the second episode of our 2023 Army-Navy game tailgate party, we warmed up with a little Cold Zero whiskey and a conversation with 2 former Green Berets of very different generations who both left service for federal law enforcement. Casey Maxted served in 1st Special Forces Group after watching Air Force One fly over his house on 9/11. Bill Hawk Albracht volunteered for Vietnam, where he served in a number of Special Forces groups. Casey went on to become an FBI agent. Bill protected 4 presidents as a Secret Service agent.
Air Force One flew right over me, and I don't know what happened, but just that moment kind of was when I was like, I'm going to serve. This is what I need to do, and I'm glad I did.
Today, Casey, with some of Bill's advice, is the founder of Cold Zero Spirits, a premium brand of whiskey and vodka dedicated to our special operations community. Casey, Bill, and I break down the 3 M's of leadership, why the mission is the most important guideline in any organization, and what character traits they look for in their teammates. Casey explains the opportunities and challenges that come with starting a spirits brand, and Bill shares what it was like to go back to Vietnam and walk the battlefield he once fought on.
It's not about the individual. It is about the team going forward, a team accomplishing the mission.
Take a listen, watch, or read our conversation. But first, grab a glass of Cold Zero.
Hawk, Casey, welcome to the Jedburgh podcast, and we're live from the Army-Navy game at Gillette Stadium.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
So, but both of you served in as Green Berets in Special Forces. Casey, you were in 1st Group. Hawk, you were in a variety of different groups, primarily 5th Group, served in Vietnam. The Vietnam veterans, let's talk for a second about them specifically. Were so instrumental, not only in that conflict, and we as society did such a poor job of bringing them home and reintegrating them into society, but also that generation and your peers really laid the fabric of American society as unsung heroes. And what we live today, and many of the things that we take for granted in society today, are a result of those sacrifices that were made by the Vietnam generation. Talk for a minute about the decision to even go into the service at that period of time.
I was 18 years old. I just out of high school. And I wanted to serve, and I wanted adventure. And I went down to the Army recruiter with my best buddy, and I said, I want to 1966. I want to join the Army. I want to be a paratrooper. I want to go infantry, and I want to go to Vietnam, serve. And he looked at us
Pretty clear goal.
Yeah, pretty like we had 2 heads. And once he figured out we were serious, he goes, well, this is your lucky day. I just happen to have 2 slots here, but they'll be gone in the afternoon. And we go, oh, Joe, we got to go. So we signed up at 1966.
What about you, Casey? You're a different generation, for sure. Yeah, as I mentioned, you served in 1st Group. What was that decision to come into Special Forces? Why serve?
Yeah, so I was motivated by the events of 9/11. I was in college at the time and didn't really have direction, didn't know what I wanted to do.
Where'd you go to school?
In Iowa at a private school called St. Ambrose.
Okay.
And I just remember that day being really moved. And I was standing outside in my yard later in the afternoon, and it was crazy because there's no flights that day, if you remember. But there was one plane that flew overhead with 2 fighter jet escorts. It was Air Force One, flew right over me. And I don't know what happened, but just that moment kind of was when I was like, I'm going to serve. This is what I need to do. And I'm glad I did, made that decision.
How many years total?
I was on active duty until 2009, and then I switched over to federal law enforcement and served in 19th Group as well, so about 13 years total.
Yeah. Well, and I think that story for both of you guys, that's why I kind of prefaced the conversation with what you do after service is as equally as important what you do in service. Because, Hawk, you were in the Secret Service.
Yes, I was.
Why?
Let's see. So I got out. I was 22. I did not have a college education. Never had been in college. And when I started to college on a GI Bill, well, I realized come about in junior year, these jobs were selling insurance, being managers of accounts, and stuff that I just didn't want to do. And somebody said, you ought to look into law enforcement. And if you're going to look at law enforcement, with a degree look into federal law enforcement. So I did. I started shotgunning applications out, and Gerald Ford had been had been shot at twice. Our guns had been drawn. Once a shot was fired, Squeaky Fromm and Sarah Jane Moore. And they was Secret Service said, man, we got to hire some more. So I was caught up in that. So at 27, I became a Secret Service agent.
Which is like young for a Secret Service agent.
At that time, now not so much. It was kind of average because we would hire guys that had experience, veterans, police officers, teachers, stockbrokers, professional experience where you've dealt with the public, dealt with people, and you went beyond. I attended bar in college, and now I'm managing that bar. It's
builds character, huh?
Yeah.
Working in a bar.
Yeah, well, that's true because we've all been there.
So, as a Secret Service agent, the rumor on the street here, at least in the parking lot, is that you actually worked with 4 different presidents.
I'm going to say yes. However, my White House years was Reagan and Bush.
Okay.
And there was never, ever a better time that I'm aware of to be a Secret Service agent.
Why is that?
They were the best. They were absolutely the best. If you didn't like them, their persona in public, well, then you didn't like them because there was no phoniness about them. There was no two-faced about them. They believed in America. They loved America. They loved our military. They loved our law enforcement. And everything they did to us seemed in keeping with America's standards and traditions. I'm not going to throw stones at any other president, and it doesn't matter that we did care for them, like them so much, because the president I was not particularly keyed on was Jimmy Carter. Didn't care for it. And the protection of Jimmy Carter or Ronald Reagan or George Bush, it never varied. It's always the same. It's always top flight professional. Just that time seems to go by quicker when you're with somebody that you admire.
Yeah. In case you were in federal law enforcement in the FBI, so after your time on active duty, why transition to the bureau?
Yeah, so for me, when I made the decision to go into the military, I looked at it as a marathon, not a sprint. I wanted to be in it for the long haul, the fight against terrorism, and so that's the decision I made. I thought that was the best move. And while I worked terrorism a little bit, I also worked other violations as well. But it was just an opportunity to continue to serve and something that gave me purpose and like-minded individuals motivated for the same reasons. And I really enjoyed my career while I was there.
Yeah. One of the things that we talk a lot about that's really important is how do you build elite teams? What do you look for? What's the character? If you like, I joked working in a restaurant builds character. Because I think it really does when you talk about hard work, you talk about discipline, you talk about dealing with people you may or may not like, but you still got to have to deal with them and show them respect. It's really important when you learn those things, especially when you're young, and you work in those roles. As you guys have progressed through your military career and into your service, and then I want to get into kind of the post-service years as well. What are those things that you took away from your military service? What are those character traits that you took away that you then applied to your next roles?
I think the word that most people go to today is grit. You look for grit in almost everything that you do. People that are going to stick with it when the cards are stacked against you, so to speak. But at the end of the day, if you just surround yourself with people of integrity, that's kind of an all-encompassing quality that I'd look for, building a business, building a team, whatever you're doing. Because if you have people with integrity that are always doing the right things and nobody's looking for ways to make the team better, supporting your leadership when there is somebody in a leadership position other than yourself, those are the things that I look for. And that's stuff that was kind of ingrained in me, being a part of a team back in my SF days. So,
what about you, Hawk?
Everything he said, absolutely, 100% back it up. But I want to relay a story, and I won't go into the difference between a short story and a word story. Anyway, about first day of first class in Officer Candidate School, 1967. We're all in there. And this
I went in 2004. I think the barracks were probably the same ones, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we probably sleeping on the same mattress.
God help you if you'll have that one. But the first day was leadership. And the instructor got up there and he said, I'm going to teach you everything you need to know about leadership today. And I went, oh boy, pen's ready, everything. He says it's the 3 M's of leadership. It's the mission, the men, and me. He says at all costs, you as infantry officers must accomplish the mission. Once that mission is accomplished, you must take care of your men, because without the men, you could not have accomplished the mission. And in a distant third, me. Any promotions, any accolades, any pats on the back that come your way, feel free to accept them. But I took those 3 M's of leadership, and I've taken those throughout the rest of my life. I never forgot them. And sometimes, especially in the world we live in, people's feelings and sensitivities can cloud the issue of accomplishing the mission. I never have. It's the mission first, and then we'll deal with whatever problems you have. It's harsh, but sometimes the mission just outweighs the person.
The mission is that grounding fabric, right? That's the thing that everybody looks at from the very beginning and all the way through. And when you face adversity, that's what's bringing you back to the right answer. You talked about integrity. You know, what are the decisions that I have to make? Why am I making those decisions? If we truly understand our mission and we start there, then in those times when we're under pressure, when there's chaos, when there's confusion, when there's lack of guidance, right? I mean, I think we've all worked in an organization where there was tremendous lack of guidance at times. Sometimes that was just enough to, just make it better.
Yep.
Because the mission, you can come back to that guiding fabric and that foundation and make solid decisions.
Well, what Casey said too, the team concept, being part, and the 3 of us being in Special Forces, I don't know if anybody knows that better than we do. Being part of a team. You don't have to be the leader, but you can be a contributing force, a part of that team, and you don't have to be the star role on a football team. But you can be a contributing member. You can be in the B squad and still be a part of that team and contribute to every win and every accomplishment they had. And we know that. We know that it's not about the individual. It is about the team going forward, a team accomplishing the mission.
Yeah, absolutely. Casey, you founded Cold Zero.
Yeah.
Which I'm enjoying right now. It's warming me up out here. What brought you into the spirits business?
So I was looking for like a new adventure post.
That's an adventure. That's a tough space.
Yeah, it really is, honestly. Tougher than I ever imagined. But I've surrounded myself again with the team that we can kind of overcome the challenges that we face and make this into a thriving business. So my partners are all hail from the special operations community, all Green Berets. Nick Lavery, you just had on, is one of my partners.
All right.
We came up with the brand Cold
Not
Zero.
a bad partner.
Right?
Yeah,
right?
he's been on a couple of times.
Holy cow.
Today's the second time we had a chance to sit down with him.
He's a stud. My other 2 partners, former SF guys too, incredible backgrounds. And Cold Zero, though, for military and law enforcement speaks, your first shot on a cold barrel. So we kind of came out, it's your first shot at a range, your first shot at a bar, even though I hope you drink this as more than just a shot. This is kind of more of a whiskey that you want to sit around a fire at night,
I went about 2/3 of the way up in here.
Yeah. And one thing I'm really excited about is, like, when you go back and talk about mission, part of our mission is giving back to veteran causes. And we have a reserve that just came out, and it's got a label that kind of pays homage to the Medal of Honor recipients. And we have 6 recipients that participated and signed every one of our bottles. And a portion of those proceeds goes back to the Medal of Honor Society. So really excited about that. It's really good whiskey. It was actually our rye whiskey that we have here that we aged in wine barrels for 9 months, and it's incredible.
I got to try that.
Absolutely. I'll get you some. And what's really great about it, though, is the fact that it gives back to those guys. And, and the other thing that we did was we told a story. We posted their bottles on our social media and put links to these guys' stories, because that's what we want to keep. We want to keep those stories alive for the generations to come. Hey, go read about these guys and what they sacrificed for the country that you're living in today.
What's been the biggest challenge as you saw the vision, you began to build the company, you created your team, and now you got to actually execute in a very heavily concentrated market?
It's the ins and outs of business, learning how to navigate the spirit business specifically, because it's a heavily controlled market. We're dealing with the state, we're dealing with retailers, distributors. All of them take a cut. All of them put hurdles in front of you. So it's
every state's different too.
And every state is different. So it's learning how to navigate that. We just did a first-time buy with AAFES recently and sold through that really quickly. And really proud of that. So we're hoping that you guys will see us in the military market very soon on a consistent basis. But yeah, it's just the ins and outs of business ownership and learning how to navigate through all the hurdles that are specifically in the alcohol business.
Well, you've got the vodka and you've got the bourbon. Any other line right now?
No, so we started out with the whiskey and the vodka last year, and we just added our reserve this year. So we're in year number 2 right now. We're a fairly young business, but we have plans for the future. But that's where we're at right now, and our whiskey is a big seller for us. I mean, that's the one that everybody really seems to enjoy. So
I like it.
I'm excited about it.
Next, I'm trying the vodka.
Vodka's good.
Yeah. But like it's just incredible, and and we get to tell stories about veterans, and that's what we want to do through our business. And I'm lucky. I met Bill like a few years ago, right, through a mutual friend.
Mm-hmm.
And Bill was talking earlier about how the veterans in the Vietnam era, they didn't get the welcome home that we did. But when I was a little kid, and we used to have these parades in our small town Iowa, and the guys like Bill would be walking in it. You'd see them decorated, their headgear and all that stuff. I looked up to these guys when I was a little kid, and that's how I got to where I am today. And when I got to meet Bill, it's truly one of the great blessings of my life personally. And our personal and professional lives are so similar, it's scary.
Yeah.
So to be able to we live really close to each other now. We see each other frequently. To be able to do stuff like this together is just awesome. It's incredible just to be able to hear his stories and share experiences. I love it.
Well, it's a lifetime of service.
Yep.
When you really think about it, you not only you have your service in the military, you have your service in federal law enforcement. Now you have service to each other. As you continue to build this company, build this community. We're here at Army Navy. What brought you here?
Well, I'm with Warrior Rising. I help the
great organization.
It's a great organization, helping veterans kind of find purpose after service through business ownership. And Bill's been a part of that now with us. He speaks at our events and things of that nature. We come out every year and celebrate, the next generation of warriors. And I know that we get into the Army-Navy rivalry, but I'll tell you what, I was in Philly, was it last year, and I had my little guys with me, and we met some Navy guys at the Rocky statue. They were amazing. When all things are said and done on the football field, I'm just proud that all these guys are out there serving on our behalf now. We're in good hands as far as I'm concerned with the next generation of warfighters.
The fine young men and women that are in these service academies and wear the uniform of our country, it gives you heart. It really gives you heart that things we'll get through this mess we're in now. We're going to move forward. And this Warriors Rising that Casey has graciously invited me to be a part of, a small part, but I like what I do for them. They're incredible, helping veterans, helping the generation of guys that got out. Age doesn't matter. If you got something going and they can provide some professional assistance, get you vectored into where you need to be, they're there for you. And I tell you, and I got to put a plug in for this, another foundation. It's called the Greatest Generations Foundation, and they are totally veteran. And what they do is take warriors back to the battlefield. They took guys to Omaha Beach that served there, Rangers to Point to Hawk, Drink Valley, Hal Moores. We were soldiers. Took them back there in groups and documented it all. Took it to help them.
Powerful.
And I just got back from a battle that I was in with 8 of the guys that I served with, and they took us there. And whatever demons I still had rattling around are totally gone when I stood on that ground 54 years later. That kind of a foundation, this kind of an organization, Warrior Rising, this kind of a product, all veteran-orientated, all the ones that bring the veterans together and give us all hope.
I got to ask you, what was it like going back onto that battlefield? Because I served 3 deployments to Iraq, and there were a lot of times where we would come out of an engagement or something, and I would think about that when I went back to the base. I'd say, I wonder if there will be a time where I would come back or be able to come back to this location with my kids or my family one day and show them this is where I was. What was that experience like?
Surreal. I never ever thought I'd be there. We're on a fire base. Special Forces provide the security. After 5 days, out of ammo, out of water, out of support, and as the North Vietnamese army was coming up the North Slope to overrun us, we broke out of the south slope. We broke out of the north slope, and about 130 of us and fought our way to safety while I'm here. And to be back there and look around, and this is where Ron Ross died. This is where Joker 85 was shot out of the air. This is where I lost a man. This is it. This is where they hit us. It came crashing back, but I was prepared because I had my brothers with me, and we got through it. It was truly an adventure.
I'll tell you, the next episode that will be released of the Jedburgh podcast is going to be on the wall that heals, which is the 3/4 replica of the Vietnam Memorial Wall that travels the country. And I had the opportunity to go to it and partake in the building of it, and then sit down in front of it at night, all lit up, and have a conversation with those responsible for bringing it to New York City. But as I said when we started, your generation did so much.
I was just talking about this last night. It was no whining, no complaining, oh, poor us. No. We got home. We were one step away from being despised. And we realized it, and we kind of got together, and we knew who each other was, and we just said, I got to get on with our lives. I got home at 70, and we did. And we didn't talk about it unless it was talking to somebody else, because you just didn't want to get into it. Yeah. But in 1996, I was at a Special Forces convention, reunion, whatever, and a very famous group, Bo Greitz. Bo Greitz was there, very famous in Special Forces. He was there, and he, like I said, he's legendary. And I'd seen him in the training in 1970. So to him, I said, Colonel Greitz, Bill Albracht, I saw you at in the training. And he goes, oh, you were with the 5th in Vietnam? I said, yes, sir. And he goes, welcome home, and shook my head. 16 years after I got home, he was the first person that ever told me, welcome home. And I then, of course, relayed that to everybody. And Vietnam veterans now pick that up as a standard. Yeah. When they see another veteran, we tell them, welcome home. But you see how it's changed. Now it's changed. America does have a conscience. Our veterans today are held in the very highest esteem and regard, which they always should have been, but they are again.
Yeah. Yeah, we see that here today.
Absolutely.
So, well, we got a great game coming up in a little bit.
Yes, we do.
So we got to get back to it. We got to have a few more of these, and then we got to get inside. But Casey Hawk, thanks so much for sitting
Thanks
down
for having us.
Go Army.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
American Jedburghs went on to form the foundation of the United States Special Forces and the Special Activities Directorate of the Central Intelligence Agency. Thanks for listening to the Jedburgh Podcast, an official program of the Green Beret Foundation. I'm your creator and host, Fran Racioppi. Join us next week for a new episode on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Check us out on YouTube for full episodes, highlights, and other long and short form content. If you like what you heard, give us a like and leave a review. Follow the Jedburgh Podcast and the Green Beret Foundation on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, X, or Threads. Send your comments and inquiries to fran@jedburghpodcast.com. As former members of Special Operations Forces, the Jedburgh Media Channel and the Green Beret Foundation remain committed to supporting all generations of U.S. Army Special Forces and their families. Thanks for joining us on this episode. How you prepare today determines success tomorrow.